There's one. That one hit it hard. Yeah, that one hit it hard. For all you anglers that are out here fishing during the wintertime, my hat's off to you. It's cold, fishing conditions are challenging, and let's face it, it's a grind out here. So today, this video is dedicated to you guys. We're gonna call it Winter Fishing 101. A lot of this is gonna be about the mental aspect of what goes on out here in the winter. We will talk about some bait selection, but more than anything else, we'll talk about strategies. And a few of these strategies hopefully will help you catch a few more fish, but they're gonna help you get through the winter and keep your mental sanity. So with that, let's get into the video, and this is Winter Fishing 101. Let's go. Steve, the first question I would ask myself is, what do you have to do to prepare for coming out here? And preparing for wintertime conditions, obviously you have to have good foul weather gear. It's going to be cold out here. If you get cold, you're not going to be able to fish and you're not going to have fun, and it's just not going to work for you. But the mental preparation is the number one thing. First and foremost, realize that you have to make realistic goals when you come out here during the wintertime. That's number one. Number two, just remember the same fish that are out here in the winter that are tough to catch are the same fish that are out here in the summer. The four things that you should be thinking about year-round, but especially during the winter: how fast you're fishing, how slow you're fishing, how deep you're fishing, how shallow you're fishing. Those four things. I've got number three written down, and it's choosing the proper baits. And I'm going to go through 7 baits right now, and I can tell you this: if you are comfortable fishing, I'll say 4 out of these 7 baits, you don't need anything else. We're talking about jerk baits, crank baits, spinner baits, A-rigs, Senkos, jigs, and drop shots. And along with the drop shots, I'll also add a Ned rig. We'll add those 2 together. But if you know 4 of those techniques, you're going to be fine out here. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, and remember those 7 baits: jerk baits, crank baits, spinner baits, A-rigs, Senkos, jigs, and drop shots. We talked about depth and we talked about speed. So when we talk about those 7 baits, you obviously want to have the category of baits like jerk baits and crank baits, spinner baits that are fast moving baits. You want to have a few of those, and then the jigs, the drop shots, and maybe a Ned rig or something like that. Those are the slower moving baits. So with those 7 baits, you can fish fast, you can fish slow, you can fish, at different depths, and you can attract fish that are either very active or maybe they're not so active. So that's number 3. Choose 4 or 5 baits that you're comfortable with, and make sure that those 4 or 5 baits can cover top to bottom, slow to fast. Number 4, when should I go out fishing during the winter time? Well, any day is a good day if you're on the water. I would suggest planning your days around fishing between 12 and 3 p.m. The fish are going to be more active during that period. Now, moon phases are important, tides are very important, but if you can look at that 12 o'clock to 3 p.m. time frame, and you can have that coincide with the first 2 hours of any tide. So if you have a high tide and it's ebbed at noon, and it's going to start dropping off down to low tide at noontime, that's going to be a good time to be out there fishing. When it comes to talking about active fish, a lot of it has to do with the temperature of the water. These fish feed year-round, but when it gets cold, the fish don't move as much, they don't need to ingest as many calories, and instead of maybe feeding every day, 2 or 3 times a day, they're going to feed maybe once a day or once every 2 days. So you're not going to have as many opportunities to catch fish during the wintertime as you're going to in the summertime. But remember, fish between 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and try to time your salooner activities and hopefully the days that you have a first 2 hours of a tide, whether it's incoming or outgoing, that's going to coincide with that 12 to 3 p.m. time frame. So think about that. Okay, let's talk about depths, and I'm going to make this real easy. And I'm going to talk about the depths that we fish here on the California Delta. And you can take this, and anytime you're fishing for bass, and the bass relate to the bank, we're not talking about deep water lakes where you're out maybe vertical jigging in 60 or 70 feet of water and you're fishing humps. We're talking about fishing fish that are relating to the bank. Think of 3 zones. There's going to be a shallow zone, a mid-level zone, and a deep zone. Now, let me explain that in relationship to what happens here on the Delta. Our shallow zone, right next to the bank or the tules, is going to be from 0 to maybe 3 feet. In the summertime, that is a killer zone to be in there. That's where everybody's punching. A lot of the fish are moving up. They're eating crawdads. That's where the activity is. So 1 to 3 or 4 feet is the shallow zone. From 4 to maybe 6 feet deep, that's a transitional zone, and that's the mid depth. And then after 6 feet, maybe 6 to 12 feet, that's the deep water. Now think of it as this. In the summertime, I will start in shallow water and move out to that transitional zone out to about 5 or 6 feet. That's where most of the fish are going to be. In the wintertime, most of these fish are going to be in the deeper water, but they will come into shallow water, but more of the fish will be transitioning from that deeper water into the mid-range. So they're going from 12 feet into 4 to 6 feet. In the summer, they're starting in 2 to 3 feet, moving into that transitional zone. But remember this, that transitional zone will always hold fish. So when you're out here in the wintertime, start in a little deeper water, work your way into the transitional zone. As the water starts warming up, then you could start maybe, when you come out first thing, hitting the inside and working out to that transitional zone. Here on the Delta, that 4 to 6 or 8 feet, that transitional zone, there's always going to be fish in that. In the wintertime, just like in the summer, we're trying to put together patterns, kind of putting pieces together to a puzzle. But in the wintertime, there's fewer clues, and it's harder to get those pieces put together because we don't get as many bites. It's just, we don't have those clues. So, and most of our clues come from either visually seeing fish or getting bit or maybe catching a few fish. So you're going to have fewer clues in the winter to help you determine where those fish are. That's why I like to move faster. Let's talk about, as we're moving around, I'm probably going to be using a jerkbait, a crankbait, or maybe an A-rig. What I want to do, and this is a strategy, make a long cast. And when I say a long cast varies day to day. Make the longest cast that you can make and still have good contact with the bait and still be able to manipulate the bait the way that you want to manipulate it. If it's dead calm, you can maybe cast 70 or 80 feet. If you've got a lot of wind out here, you may have to adjust that to a 50-foot cast. So think about the length of your cast and how it's going to differ on every day that you're out here. Make sure that you have control of that cast and control of your bait. I make that long cast, and on every retrieve, I change my cadence 3 or 4 times. If it's a jerkbait, I may throw it out there, and I may pop it 2 or 3 times real quick, and then I may let it set. I may take 3 or 4 cranks on the reel, then pop it a couple times, then I might let it set a little longer. Then I might burn it back, and I might let it set. And every cast that I throw, I know that there are fish looking at that bait. By changing my cadence throughout the cast, and I'm showing it to those same fish, but I'm giving them 3 or 4 different reactions or different cadences that can draw a reaction bite for the fish that are very active, or if there's a fish just sitting down there and looking up and he's seeing that thing and it's coming into his zone and it stops, that may be the reaction that fish wants. So if I'm saying this right and you guys are picking this up, make that long cast, change your retrieves throughout the cast, and those fish that you are showing the bait to will have different stimulus to come up and grab that bait. You will find day to day that you think you have a pattern that's not a pattern. Here's a simple fact. When these fish are biting, they're going to bite numerous patterns throughout the winter. When they're not biting, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be the best jerkbait fisherman, the best Ned rig fisherman, the best A-rig fisherman, and they're just not going to bite that bait. Now, when you do happen to find one of those periods where the fish bite, and maybe you catch 3 fish on a jerkbait and you say, man, it's a jerkbait pattern. It may not be a jerkbait pattern. It may just be that you were in the right place at the right time, and whether you threw a jerkbait, an A-rig, a worm, whatever it is, those fish would have bit. Man, that's a lot to take in, isn't it? Nobody out here is coming out here to be the hero in the winter. We're just surviving, and if you can do what we've talked about in this video so far and keep your sanity and keep your eyes open, work on your techniques, it's going to help you, and you're going to be a much better fisherman come March when those fish start moving into the shallows and they get easier to catch. Let's go out. I'm going to do a little fishing. We'll see what happens out here, and you know, if I don't catch anything, I'll give you a little sign off, and if I catch a few fish or I got something else to say, we'll check that out while I'm fishing. Let's go fishing. Oh, there's one. Wow. Woo. Welcome aboard. Pitch it out, perfect. Within a foot of that, I can twitch it, let it sit, and let those fish just kind of look at it while it's in the strike zone. If they want it, they'll come out and take it. I want to work my way around this point because the other day I was here and I caught some fish on the edge of this little flat that's right around the point. So we're gonna, oh, there's a fish. God darn it. I just saw it come up. Thought he touched it there for a minute. Okay, I worked that edge nice. There's no fish that wanted to eat it. I did as good as I could do in this wind, so I'm happy with that, that little stretch. Now let's see if we can pick something up here. Okay, so right in here is where they've been sitting. Long cast. Slow it down a little bit. Right in there was where I was getting them, right by that tule. See if there's something that seems to be holding them there. There it is, same spot. Hey, look at that. I told you there was fish out there, and this doesn't happen very often, but it did today. Woo! Yeah, that's the way you do it, 2 at a time. There we go. Yeah, there we go. You know, I think I'm going to call it a day, guys. Fished for about 3 hours. I had some fun, caught plenty of fish, didn't get any big ones, but remember, it's all about coming out here, enjoying the great outdoors, enjoying the river or lake that you're on, and catching a few fish. And we're not trying to break any records out here. We're just trying to keep our sanity. That's what we did today. That's Winter Fishing 101. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys on the river. Good luck. Everything in a bass's life revolves around either making babies or eating. Kind of like guys.